Kelly on that
Are
one?
you
Kelly's
looking
in
at
that
the
one.
sheet
Yeah, I
for
needed a
like the
reference.
flow? Or...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's going to say up there's the Scanner Darkly where you
I
could...
didn't take any notes.
I didn't either. It's not my movie.
Yeah.
Based on my discussion, it is certainly not my movie. Oh,
That's a
boy.
Christmas tree.
Toot.
That is a Christmas tree.
Oh, it is a Christmas tree.
Is that a Christmas tree?
It's not Christmas though. It is the effing movie Hotcast. Podcast. Oh fuck. Fuck. Edit it.
The hot
Cut-
pass.
Cut it.
No,
Welcome
it's
to the
the
hot
movie Hot Pass.
The hot pot.
It's a hot pass.
Remember Movie Pass?
Yeah.
You do.
It's coming back.
Yeah, I heard it is coming back.
Not for the same
Yeah.
price, but it's coming back.
Yeah.
Price.
More expensive.
Hit the bell. Anyway, this is the effing movie podcast. I'm sure none of that will make that into this original cut.
Yeah.
Nathan, you got us.
No.
What game are we? No, I'm kidding. We don't do that anymore. we got our whole new script and roster we're getting used to. But before we get into this, we want to plug our sponsored guest. No, I'm kidding. We're not sponsored yet. Blue Apron. What the fuck?
Where are you?
Anyway.
Come on, Squarespace. We'll even go Squarespace.
Yo, give me Raid Shadow Legends
Grubhub.
sponsor right now. I will even play it. Anyway, speaking
Yeah,
of
I'd do it.
playing and get
Sure.
into it, we are playing the roles of your host. That's Nathan, that's Bryce, that's Mason, and I am, of course, Dylan. And today's movie, Nathan, what do we got on the slate?
We are re-reviewing A Scanner Darkly. This was a retro review on the wheel, which means we go back to movies that we have basically started off doing our discussions with before we were recording them, and we're bringing them into our recorded content. This one was the first movie that I picked for our get-together that we were doing back then.
Yep.
And it's one that's always been a favorite of mine to suggest as like just something that most people wouldn't have seen. So I thought it'd be nice to pull it back out of the archive.
Can you tell us a little bit about this movie?
Sure can.
Boy, can he.
Yeah.
I even have the characters' names
Oh.
on my notes.
I will forget those names.
I know
Well,
Frack.
Frick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Freck.
Frick.
Okay, I don't know him.
He doesn't
apparently.
know him.
He doesn't know the one character he thought he knew.
There's Bob.
The Sins of Frack.
Donna.
I've heard about
Yeah,
that scene
Bob.
a lot.
Bob Arctor.
Archer. Or Archer.
So Bob Arctor is Keanu Reeves. In this movie, it's going to be full spoilers as I go through this explanation.
You should have seen that on the title. He always puts it on the thumbnail.
Full
I'd stop doing that.
Never mind. He stopped doing
It's
it.
implied.
And if
it's
if you're listening to this on the podcast version, you wouldn't know that either.
Nope.
It is full spoilers.
Yeah. So full spoilers. He is an investigator. The year is 2013, actually, oddly enough. But he is an investigator looking into a drug called Substance D. This drug is highly addictive and ultimately leads to the hemispheres of somebody's brain competing with one another, and it turns you into like just a mushy, like almost zombie-like state where you're not a zombie, but you're so simple-minded that if somebody tells you to do something, just like go water the flowers, and it's just like that's what you do mindlessly.
Remember Simple Joe from
Simple Jack.
Simple Jack? Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
I cry from my head movies.
So, yeah, Keanu is this investigator. They wear these suits that are like morph suits. They disguise who they are with just this constant changing of different people. So it's never clear who's working and doing this. All under the guise that it's such a dangerous job to be investigating the dealers and pushers of this drug that they have to protect the identities of anyone involved in the situation. So these people working together don't know who each other are. And Bob Arctor is also addicted to Substance D. Towards the end of this movie, you learn the reason he's addicted to it is he kind of got led into it by Winona Ryder's character, who also turns out to be his boss. There's
And it's also his girlfriend. Loosely.
pretending to be his girlfriend,
Right. Well, in their
in a very leading kind of way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he gets addicted to this drug. So much of this story really is, it plays out as just kind of seeing these people that are on drugs and just kind of messed up in these little weird situations.
Boy, is it
But-
about that.
Yeah.
But the actual story doesn't happen until the very tail end of this movie,
Last 20
where
minutes,
he goes into the rehab facility. The whole time it's been hinted at, like, people keep subtly dropping, like, get them blue flowers. She would like blue flowers, and this kind of thing, just so that they're hoping in some part of his mind, once he goes to this rehab facility and ends up on this farm for this company that is spends the most on trying to prevent substance D, but is actually the ones manufacturing, producing, and distributing this drug. But anyway, it's all about trying to get him there, make it to where, like, they don't suspect him at all, and he hopefully comes back with some kind of evidence to prove that they're the ones behind the whole thing.
Right.
That's kind of the story to this, but really most of this movie is just about people being very badly messed up on drugs, and just like scenes of that
Scenes
playing
of an
out.
addict experience,
Yeah,
right?
and playing out with like really well-known actors too is part of the big thing about this. I mean,
Robert Downey
Jr.,
Woody Harrelson,
yeah.
and Donna's Winona Ryder, and Keanu Reeves, as previously mentioned.
Mhm.
So yeah. I'm curious though. This seems like a movie.
Smack your lips, everybody.
This seems like a movie that has a lot of, trivia stuff aside. It feels like it has like background info to it. So
Oh, yeah.
before we get into our discussion, I do want to get into a little bit about that. I actually found out a trivia fact recently, but I want to see if it's mentioned in here.
Well, so a thing that I didn't mention in explaining this movie is that the whole thing was actually filmed, but then they went back and I think it's rotoscoping.
Yeah.
is what it's called.
This definitely
They-
looked like a filter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they drew over every single frame of this movie
Right.
to make it look kind of like a graphic novel, and I think they did an incredibly good job on that front. It took them 18 months actually to do that part of it, and it only took them 23 days to film all the actual stuff with the real actors, which is just fascinating. Less than a month, you film this whole movie, and then you spend a year and a half just drawing over top of it.
They had to, like, after the fact, like, Keanu's, like, that movie comes out and he's seeing trailers and he's like, oh, fuck, I forgot I did that. Like,
Yeah.
that has to be, like, a thing.
Like, really, that's such a
Right.
short stint in your life, and it was actually shortly after he had finished The Matrix,
Right.
too.
So this would be like us just now seeing any of our reviews, like our bracket reviews.
Yeah.
Like a bracket challenge, like a year later we're like, oh, we did do that, didn't we? Like,
God, that was exhausting. Yes, we did.
brothers.
I guess some other interesting things is they looked at 60 different houses before they settled on the one that it would take place in.
Why?
Like, it's such an... and
It
it's
seems
like
like such a
that
meticulous decision, like...
over something that's
not that necessary.
so unimportant,
Right.
really. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem
It
like
could
a
be
big
any
deal
house.
which house... Yeah, it could have
No.
been any house.
It
and
could
that's
have been
kinda-
literally the house
And maybe
next
that's
door
what
to
they were
it.
doing, is they were trying to find a house that's like, this could be anybody's house. This
Right.
looks like just any old house that you've ever seen.
Mhm.
But I don't think you have to look through 60 houses to find that
No,
house.
no.
If that's the most common looking house, it shouldn't have taken 60 other houses to get there.
Although
I
if you
agree.
told me, like, the director, Richard Linklater, if I believe, if I remember
Mhm.
correctly, but if you told me as, like, somebody as meticulous as him who's doing a movie that where he redraws over every frame of a already filmed movie, went and saw 60 houses to go do that, yeah, that sounds like the kind of person that he is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Any other trivia lending to that theory?
I mean, this movie is full of all kinds of references to the other books by the same author. I
Yeah.
can't think of the author's name off the top of my head.
Philip K.
But he did the Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep.
yeah.
and there's a couple of other ones that he did that are referenced in this. Speaking of references, they also do reference Blade Runner in
Yes,
this.
that's the trivia fact
Yeah,
I saw. The one
yeah.
in the
It's like all the like kind of floating text stuff going on is
Right.
actually the script from Blade Runner.
yeah, it's like Deckard and talking to any of the androids and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
remember thinking that's fun.
But yeah, that's basically most of what I've got. Most of the things that stood out to me is kind of interesting.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Go,
but
Bryce, go.
I'm ready for this half of the couch to go now.
not yet.
I want to lead off the discussion in saying that the animation, I thought the second time around was hideous. I did not enjoy looking at it. I think it's super murky and you can't really tell what's going on, and I guess it could be argued that like maybe that's they're wanting you to see it in this different kind of way because like it's all about like drug addiction and stuff like that, because like that's what so many of the scenes are is about drug addiction. We'll judge that accordingly.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it could be said, like, if you were to watch a wrestling documentary and you have absolutely zero fucks given about wrestling,
Any foot
you're
in the
going
wrestling
into
world,
it with
right.
a very, very, very bad beginning.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't enjoy wrestling as
It's
a
just like
whole.
this is like
but
a
then
drug
I watch
addict's movie.
then I watch Foxcatcher, which does a lot more than that. And
No,
I've seen
that.
God.
And,
I meant WWE.
And-
wrestling.
Yeah, we meant good wrestling.
and I was like, shut up, let me finish. And I've also seen Tom Hardy
That's not the
wrestling
same.
or whatever.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Boxing.
That's
I'm
MMA.
fighting. I don't care, but like just because like I don't enjoy it prior, the movie pulls me in and makes me enjoy it in that movie. Good movies do that.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, to me, this one doesn't pull me into that world.
But other than that, I think the other thing I wanted to touch on, because we haven't talked about like some of the highlight moments, or at least some of the parts where it's just like, yeah.
Sure.
And we haven't openly, on record, talked about the sins of Frick.
It was,
Yeah,
it
we
was,
have.
It was funny
We have.
last
Yeah,
time.
Have
we did during the first year review.
Oh,
Yep.
shit.
We did
No, we did
talk
talk
about it. We talked about it pretty thoroughly.
All right.
Actually.
Well, so now in
Because
context.
we had a favorite scene thing, like I feel like I lobbied for that just because I wanted to talk about the sense of Freck.
Yeah.
And we hadn't talked about that movie on
Yeah,
film yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So now in our second talking with it, it still lands.
Oh yeah. Like
Frick's
that's
still
it is
fun
the
to me.
standout skit
Yeah.
out of this whole movie.
I 1000% agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the radio turning on and just starting to narrate like what's going on with Freck, and he's just like goes and starts doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Gets the wine.
Right.
yeah, gets the wine, has the fountain head, and what was it, like a half-finished complaint to like some
Yeah.
to like the
Oh,
utility
Utility
or
company.
something.
Yeah.
And then an alien just appears and he's just like, all right.
He just looks
Reading
at
it
and he's
off.
just doing
It's
this.
such a awesome looking alien too. Like
It
the,
is.
the whole thing of them drawing this whole movie gave them the opportunity to put in things like this.
Right.
And it's not the kind of movie that needs to have a lot of this, but boy, this one scene makes me wish that it could have played more with that, or that there could be another rotoscoped movie like this that could do the same. Because it was pretty neat visually. It looked really good, and yeah, just him being like, this your sins will be read to you endlessly.
Yeah.
In shifts.
Thousands.
Him just sitting in bed, like, I don't know, something about his eyes tweaking in that moment with, like, the alien.
Well, and he
Yeah.
would say one thing and he'd be like, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In 6th grade, you threw a rock and blah, blah, blah. It's also when you learn to masturbate. Mm-hmm.
yeah, like, the little self-affirmations.
Yeah.
And you just know, like, walking into the room, not being Frick and looking at him, like, you can literally see,
You know.
like,
Yeah,
you
like
know.
what's actually happening.
right, the
versus
reality
the-
versus his perception of
yeah.
it is, oh yeah, any other big pros, big cons, Baylor, big thoughts on it, other than that?
Not for me.
So, I think
Yeah,
that transitions
To the question, right?
the question, which
Sure.
actually on the calendar is before the discussion, but I'm
I feel like we've touched on this a little bit, but I was just the thing that I was wondering, and part of the reason why I wanted to rewatch this and have rewatched it myself on a few occasions is I wonder how a second watch works out. I mean, it's definitely not like The Prestige or anything like that, but
Oh, yeah.
do you feel like there is added value in having rewatched it, knowing the what's actually happening to Bob Arctor's character?
Yes.
Does that give this more?
I'm going to go first.
Go for
I
it.
think that upon the second watch, this wasn't like one of those over your head movies on the first watch, I don't think, as
Mhm.
much. It can be a little bit. But on that first watch, I remember all of us talking about it. You guys were bringing up all of the points, and I was just like, man, I just watched a trippy movie. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, like, on this one, I was like, okay, he was undercover the whole time. Okay, he actually got in too deep. Okay, yeah, he this love interest, took him too far, and like that final scene actually meant more to me because of this. I don't want to say sacrifices that he made, but like the things that he ended up kind of slipping into too much.
But the things that you're not fully understanding, you don't have to rewatch the whole movie for that. You just
You
need to
don't
rewatch
have
the
to.
last 20 minutes.
The last 20 minutes is probably
That's
the
what-
most important
Right.
part of this entire movie.
That's what you would want to rewatch. Like, I don't
Yeah.
really get that, so I'm going to watch it again. Oh, I'm just going to watch the last 20 minutes.
Well,
Cause
and that was my
that's what
qualm
you
with
need.
this is like in order to get to that, I had to sit through all these skits, all these scenes, all these little dialogue filled antics with like a rock and a hammer, and like that scene, and then the bicycles and all this. And I was like, golly, like I get it, they're all roommates and they all just do tons of drugs and smoke a lot of weed, but dang. But I'm personally glad that I watched it again, just because I forgot how fluid it was and how like I appreciate the animation even more than I did the first time.
Yeah.
Because it was cool. Like once you got past the first like roach scene and all that stuff, if you were in it, then you were in it. I was, and it seemed natural after that. So.
Price for rewatch. How was it for you?
it's tempered my opinion on this movie a lot.
Gotcha.
I knew more of what I was getting into, but I guess I didn't really know how it was delivered. Like, I kind of like, since it's been a while since we've seen
It's
it.
been
a
2
couple
years.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of knew, like, generally what I was getting, but not, like, the nitty-gritty, like, what's my opinion on it. And the second watch definitely solidified what my opinion is on this movie.
Yeah, I think I'm less on the camp for my opinion on it, and more so, I think there's rewatchability in that if this is a movie that you get entranced by the art style and things like that in, again, not that the details or the plot or anything is specifically big, and it's not a lot of little hints and nods that you're missing for the rewatchability for it, but I think for me it did let me, I guess the Press's point, kind of get a little bit clearer vibe into, okay, I'm actually sitting and enjoying, or sitting and watching the movie for the first time, because the first time you're experiencing it, and that art style can, very much be such a distraction away from the performances, the dialogue, stuff like that. And this time, it felt like I was a lot more locked into what was going on the screen, not just the art, but like the characters and the discussion there. So in that way, I feel if you're a person that is maybe getting really absorbed into the artistic world of it, so to speak, then a rewatch is probably going to be beneficial to let you really take in the movie.
Does this help you at all, Nathan? Because I'm sure you've seen this movie.
I've seen
multiple
this
times.
movie
Yeah.
many times. I've probably seen this 7 times.
God.
This
Woo.
week, wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man,
That's
I'm just
a lot.
It's Tuesday.
It's just one that had always been a popular pick of mine.
It's unique. I mean, it's
Yeah.
something that you can keep
It
in your
is
back
unique,
pocket,
yeah.
and you can say, you know what, man, if you really like movies, give this one a shot.
Or if you want to know what Nathan's taste is.
Yeah, that's true.
This
It
movie
is-
Very,
it's
that was
very
this was a
much-
very good first movie for you.
yeah.
Very
Like
good.
I wasn't like
It's a very
I wasn't
defining for his
hiding
taste, though,
anything
too.
about my taste
Yeah.
whenever I picked that movie.
Yeah.
What was your first one? Actually, I think all of ours except maybe Dylan's are pretty like our first picks.
Yeah.
Like I think yours is like it is kind of your taste, but it's not like what I think of when I think of your taste. But like Scanner Darkly, yes. Me Earl and the Dying Girl,
Yeah.
hell yes. Kung Fu Panda 2, yes.
I think all three of you guys knocked it out of the ballpark. Although I objectively still couldn't tell you what my genre is. Like,
I don't really know either.
Well,
I mean,
you had to make the opening move.
Fine.
That's
right, I
true.
had
Yeah,
to
you
make
were
the
the
very
first
first one. So
it was the
it
very first pick.
And literally, Phone Booth One, it's one of those movies that I'm like, what are, and kind of in your wheelhouse of thinking, I was just like, what's a movie that I don't think they've watched, that they've probably never watched?
It was on TNT like every
Well,
week.
So
I didn't know that.
as a non-cable person, I don't know that,
Yeah.
right?
I'd seen that movie like 4 times
Right,
before we watched that one.
but probably it's a very dismissible movie if nothing else. If you just
True.
hear Phone Booth and you see some guy in the street, if I see it on TNT, I'm fucking changing the
That's a
channel.
bottle episode.
Right. So I think it's one of those ones where it required more of a look because of how easy it is to overlook. In the same way, I think Nathan had that mentality for Scanner Darkly.
maybe JoJo for you?
What's JoJo mean?
No, Jojo Rabbit?
No, I mean like,
No, I'm talking about like for your taste. I'm thinking about like a movie that you've picked like that really fits your taste.
oh,
I think JoJo's pretty up there. It's critically acclaimed.
how do I keep getting saddled?
It's
with
got
that?
kind of like a teen romance aspect to it, but it's
Yeah.
also a drama,
Yeah,
which I feel like
I would say if nothing
Let's
else,
pick up
dramas
those.
of all things are probably the thing. But
Yeah, I'll
it's
think
drama.
drama.
It's dramas with senses of comedy and humor to it. Like, a Tarantino drama would fit.
Inception, I don't really consider to have much comedic value to it.
For me. Yeah,
We
not
can talk
really.
about this later.
Right, but this is not the discussion for this time with it.
Oh, yeah, we're trying to be more concise this season. That's not concise.
I like going to a buffet and having an eclectic taste. So
Talk to him.
yeah.
Talk to the orange man.
I'm just doing this.
Yeah. So, I guess question aside, and speaking of buffets, we can get into
Yeah.
Fat Man Perfectly Fit. It's fucking back, baby. First time for the real movie of the series. Not we spun a wheel off it, so this is our like
Yeah.
real true opening. Other than
I say
what
Nathan
movie
starts.
did we review just last week? I've already forgotten.
It was the other guys.
Other guys, that's right.
Yeah.
Ah, that was so good.
So yeah, this movie, it's fat. I mean, like Price said, it does feel like the director was wanting to be a little bit like Tarantino.
Mhm.
I think this movie would have played better if it didn't have as much lingering on scenes, and if the story had actually been more properly interwoven throughout these skits, because it is just so much about showing you these people and getting you to like understand them or be interested in them, and so little about telling you a story. And I mean, even if that's what they were going for, that's not really the best thing for a movie, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm skipping to my turn. I agree with everything Nathan said. I don't think we're going to be close on the scoring scale, but I agree with everything he just said.
Okay.
Everything.
Well, I'm taking my turn.
Okay, go for it.
Sorry, Mace.
That's okay.
I think it's chubby. I don't think it's full on fat. I think that there are some. In my head, there are some scenes that have that Tarantino sitting in the scene for too long moments, but it didn't feel like every single scene. And most importantly, I think that if I'm thinking of what I cut from the movie, and it's not really a whole lot. Like, I actually have a hard time figuring out what I would cut on it. So for those reasons alone, I'm not going to pick a scene for this time because I just don't have one off the top of my head.
What about the second scene after Freck meets with Robert Downey Jr. and they're in
The diner?
The diner. Do you
No,
feel like that is a scene that needed to happen?
It's important because I like seeing the waitress's tits in the dream segment.
What
so-
about the silencer scene?
See, that feels like it does the best in describing Woody Harrelson as like what his archetype is.
You've already gotten Woody Harrelson's character way before
We
this.
have.
The first time you see Woody Harrelson and he acts, you're like, that's his character.
We have, but I don't know. I feel like it does the best encompassing it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm weird on this one. I don't necessarily take whole scenes out, but I definitely trim the scenes, and for that reason, I tend to lean more towards chubby than calling it full blown fat.
See, I think Woody Harrelson's character is more is defined by the conversation in the truck when they're like leaving, and Robert Downey Jr. keeps playing him, and he's just like, well, "What is it, man? Is the door open or not?"
What'd you write on the note?
Yeah.
Come in, the door's unlocked. He did it.
Mason, is it chubby or is it fat?
I'm
man? I need to know.
gonna say fat. The only nod that I can give this movie is like with all those little scenes in between the long drawn out ones. This guy was supposed to be,
and how some people go through that, but I don't care. Like to me, it's aesthetically unpleasing to look at this movie.
It was gross. It was gritty, but there was one scene before he got addicted. He had 2 kids. And like, do you guys remember that? It was really
Yeah.
bright.
Oh,
Everything
yeah.
was like, that nice off-white beige look, and like, but yes, every other part of the movie was that dark gray, dark blue, murky fluid. I love the animation though. I mean, I thought it was.
I really, talking about the whole thing about the animation trying to lend itself to like a drug addict's trip and that kind of thing, absolutely that's what they're after. Like so
Right.
much of this, like since they drew every frame, they could have drawn it to where like everything moved in a realistic and solid way, but they deliberately made some things feel floaty. Like there's a point where like somebody's like setting a tray of food down on a table, and like as the camera's moving, the tray's kind of like floating with the
Yes.
camera a little
Right.
bit, and like the angles just don't seem quite right. Like everything's just there to kind of get you in that mindset of like everything being a little askew, and like even when they're out in public too, it's like they're always a little off kilter because of how addicted they are and just how messed up their minds are.
Right, or even a little too animated at times. I think of like when you think of like low budget old school like cartoons like a Charlie Brown or something like that, it feels like their hair or there's like the lines are always moving because that's just like
Yeah.
how animation was at that time. But I think that concept plays really well with, again, like the anxious jitters, the scratching, all of the little nitpicks and things like that. So aesthetically, I still think it's interesting and neat, but for me, it's I don't really see it as a matter of aesthetic because it's not about do I like this or not. It is what is the purpose of this, and again, the whole purpose is to sit there and to make you feel uncomfortable or perturbed and do that. I think if it was trying to be too attractive or something like that, and this isn't, and again, like I'm gonna go extra on this one just because it's gonna know my price. It's not like they're trying to do like Demon Slayer and trying to be like high def CG beautiful looking thing. That's not their intent. The intent is to be a off-putting something there.
Yeah,
Right.
I think
Got
it's
some-
like part of it is to make sure that they're not in any way glorifying the
Right,
idea
they can't
of
do
drug
it.
addiction.
It couldn't be
Like
something
there's
too
there's
clean or
some
too fancy.
some movies and stuff that will definitely be like, oh, the fun of like being on drugs and going on a trip, and
Mhm.
they like this movie is very much like
You're gonna
it's
have a bad
all
time, dude.
disturbing.
Right.
It's like there's no good situation. Like the bugs in Freck's hair in the beginning and that whole thing where he's just like
Yeah.
going crazy with that and washing his dog and everything. Like that is exactly the kind of thing that people that are really deeply into drugs probably have had very similar experiences. with.
Right.
The only problem is with that, like you just said, the scratching his hair, finding the fleas or whatever. Like, if you're turned away at that part, that's literally the first scene of this movie.
Yeah.
This whole movie's not for you. Which I was gonna say, upon
Yeah.
first rewatch, this was the first one that Nathan suggested. We had watched Phone Booth, me and Earl, Kung Fu Panda, and then this one.
Was that my first?
Yes.
Yes.
And you can imagine
No, Kung Fu
when
Panda
we
2.
watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. When we watched Phone Booth,
Such a
we
weird
all
one.
kind of knew that one. Me and Earl was just a comedy. Kung Fu Panda we were all familiar with, and then we watched A Scanner Darkly, which starts with this like really weird animation.
And that's where we're like, this is Nathan's kind of movie.
Oh.
We didn't even know Nathan, I guess,
Yeah.
up until that point. I mean, we thought we did.
You think you know somebody until you start watching their movies, and then
Yes.
it's just like, nah, you're a
That-
sick motherfucker.
That
Like
was just a taste of how off-putting the whole rest of the movie was going to be.
Yeah.
If you were out early, then you were out early.
I'm capping off the animation discussion and by saying that I understand where you all are coming from, and just like when it comes to animation and aesthetics, apparently I'm thinking of something different than you three. I mean, I can't help it. I don't know what it is, because I think of like Promare, where I was the only one who enjoyed that because I think they had a very specific direction and I liked how they executed on it. It's very bright, colorful, crisp, clear. You know what you're getting, because I think that kind of like aids to the action and enhances the animation that they're doing with the fights and stuff.
That's
But
fair.
this one, I do see the direction that they're going for. I see why they did it, but to me personally, it was very, very off-putting, and that will bring my score down a lot, because I want to be engaged with the movie. Like, I'm not one of those. Again, I've said this many times as opposed to them. I'm fully locked into a movie when I watch it. I'm not doing laundry. I'm not doing something else. I am locked in. I want to experience
I
it
watched the movie
and do whatever.
too.
But it's just like this one, just everything on the screen is off-putting. But going to get off that and start the next discussion, which I think is the star-studded cast, which I think needs to be addressed, because there's a lot of very famous people in it.
You mean
and
undressed?
Well,
No.
only that
Are you
random
sure?
girl that one time.
But
and then the waitress.
Only the waitress, right?
Yeah.
No.
No, there's the rando girl
yeah,
that
there's-
he brings
yeah.
home. Right.
I mean, it didn't do
Connie.
the cast didn't do any favors to me. Like just because like I knew the names and stuff, like it didn't really do it any favors. I mean, I think Robert Downey Jr. was the standout for me, because I think he's doing a kind of
Yeah,
different kind of
right.
performance. But everybody else, I've kind of seen
Yeah,
those roles
Woody
before.
Harrelson kind of like
He was a
fades
little-
into the background for the most part. I feel like in this, like Robert Downey Jr.'s character does
the front. Yeah.
take the lead on so many situations, and it's because of the kind of person that he's playing
Right.
too.
It's interesting though, like, so Woody Harrelson, I kind of speaking on his before we're going broad term with the cast, is a very like randomly explosive character, and it felt like he was kind of overdoing it at times. But so to your point, and again, kind of briefly wrapping up like the animation thought, because this connects it to this, is that looking at the cast and things like that, I think the animation did a lot to not have a big cast, or at least like a star-studded cast, and it be distracting. Because how many times have we sat there and said, oh, we have like a star-studded cast, and it's so hard to see them as the characters, we're just seeing them as the people. And
Yeah, I will say,
Agreed.
like, even seeing these characters
Right.
whenever they're drawn over like that, Like you're not thinking the whole time this is Robert Downey Jr.
Right. I think that did a great service to sit there and disconnect me away from saying, "Wow, this is Robert Downey Jr. talking to."
Now that being said, though, Keanu still
transcends all mediums, and that's fine.
I
You know
want you
what?
guys to find me a fucking movie where Keanu Reeves doesn't play Keanu Reeves. He is the exact same in every single thing. He
Yeah, but if you
does.
love that one thing he does, you're in for a good side.
What's that time traveling movie that he does?
Bill and Ted.
Yeah, Bill and
To be
Ted.
fair,
I think
that's
he
a
acts
very
a little bit different.
That's the most like un-Keanu you get on that one. But
and it's a popular movie of his
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it's a pretty early one that he did as well.
yeah,
Mhm.
early 80s.
Well, they did another
40s,
one. They did a
Point
sequel.
Break.
Yeah.
and then the most recent one. Yeah.
Point Break. Yeah, but that's like
Keanu still feels like Keanu.
Yeah.
But cast aside and stuff like that. Yeah. That being said, I would say that all of the performances are probably unintentionally so, but I think that they're just all subtly good. Other than Woody Harrelson, Woody Harrelson's the only one that I wouldn't say is like a bad performance. It just feels like it's weird, right? Like it feels like why do we bring Woody Harrelson into this other than
So it's something where like if you take a look at his hair and everything too, I wonder if a lot of these characters were specifically meant to feel like certain kinds of people that are on drugs.
yeah.
Like he's
Certain, like,
the
archetype
quiet,
addiction,
reserved,
right, yeah.
but like does get really like
Internally
up and
paranoid,
concerned.
tweak,
Like
right.
yeah, internally paranoid. Like
Yeah.
and I've known somebody who on a trip was exactly that way. They were very calm, very quiet, but as soon as they felt like there was reason for them to be paranoid, they were like out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, and I think this movie does cover like a series of like druggy archetypes, so to speak, with that one you have. Yeah.
Speaking of that, I didn't remember this, but after the movie ends and it has before the credits, and it has like this is for all like this person like for Amber or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Are those like just friends of a director that like has been addicted to drugs, or does anyone know who that like?
Maybe some
I didn't
of
look
the
into
actors.
that. I would imagine. I can't imagine it was just the director. It's probably like cast
Right,
and
cast, crew,
crew
and stuff
as
like that.
well. Like
Right.
anybody that anyone knew
Struggled with addictions.
that had struggled with it. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I figured. I was curious.
So I'm gonna get into my real qualm with this movie. The only thing that I could really take away on the second watch, and I don't think I noticed it as much on the first watch, this, you kind of said it earlier, where like the story doesn't really come until like the last 20 minutes. Until that last 20 minutes, and you get a little bit of that early story, like
Copy parts, yeah.
right at the beginning. Yeah, this guy's wearing a suit. Yeah, he's like kind of connected, but undercover. Most of this movie, I feel like, is just the antics between the three roommates.
Yeah.
And they are somewhat funny, but to me they were just a little bit abrasive and I just found them more annoying this time through. It wasn't awful, but it was just like the bike scene was kind of funny. I think that was the first one that they kind of like all got together.
It's got 18 gears.
Yeah.
There's eight
Orphan
gears.
gears.
Yeah,
we
we're
have to find the orphan gears. But then after that, then they were working on their car.
yeah.
And then they were doing this, and then they were doing that, and then Robert Downey Jr. was like, I don't know, I can't remember.
The
but
making the silencer thing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Shoots
was-
the gun.
And
Wow.
then Harrelson's like, well, luckily, next time you shoot it off,
Yeah.
we won't be able to hear it because we're deaf.
We're deaf. Yeah, and it was just a lot more antics and like shenanigans between the group than it was like moving the story forward.
Yeah, it definitely was. This movie spends a lot of time just sitting on those things, and if you don't like that, just like those little sketches
Mhm.
like that. And it's weird because this kind of behavior in a movie is a comedy's mode of operating.
Yeah.
Right.
And this isn't really a comedy,
No.
although it does try and be humorous
Plenty.
while also being like a look at.
I mean, this
People on
is
drugs.
exactly like a Tarantino kind of movie. Like I
Oh,
can think like
yeah,
Pulp
like-
Fiction.
yeah.
That's what this like. It's wanting to be Pulp Fiction, but I think it does not meet that bar.
Well, I
At
wouldn't go
all,
as far
in
as to
my
say that's trying to
opinion.
be Pulp Fiction, but
It's
like,
trying to be Tarantino-esque where
Yeah.
it sits in
with its
scenes.
dialogue
Yeah,
and
I think
like how it's structured.
Robert Downey Jr. feels like a Tarantino character with as much as like
No, they all do that because like they all have like those random conversations that don't mean anything, but it's supposed
Yeah.
to let you relate to these characters more and like
Right.
understand what they're doing.
it's
but,
engaging and or at least interesting.
But the dialogue to me wasn't very interesting.
So, but I think my big thing here is that I want to see the people that it's aimed to be relatable at, because not any of us are going to be openly admitting that we're addicts or have been former addicts at any point, to my knowledge. And therefore, this is not going to be something we may find directly relatable unless you know people or that's your friend's family verse or something like that. And God, yeah, every one of these people, I'm like, nope, that's my uncle, that's like, I'm pegging people in my head with that. Again, not directly for me, but I would honestly love to just be like, and here's Jim off the streets. Let's see what Jim thinks about it. He's like, oh yeah, crushed it. Yeah, it's me and the boys. We all just got into a Prius.
But I'm
Dirty
watching
mustard.
it. I'm watching this movie from behind my eyes.
Sure.
And a movie needs to be relatable to all, not just like one specific category of people
Well,
that
I mean,
has
this
somebody.
movie- this movie
I
thinks
don't know
about
about
that.
that.
'Cause,
Right.
Like, I
I
mean,
do.
you can judge it from your own perspective,
Sure.
as you should.
Yeah.
But I don't think all movies need to play to everybody.
Do you think Raw's for everybody? Do you think that was written and directed?
Or
with-
King Richard. The
No,
tennis
but that
movie.
doesn't mean that I have to enjoy it then, just because it's not for me. Like I say, like,
Sure.
oh, I know who that's
Sure.
for, so I'm going to judge it from their perspective. No, I'm judging it from my perspective, and it doesn't hit for me. I see who it's supposed to hit. It's not hitting for me, so I'm.
Like overseeing these roommates. This guy, Keanu Reeves' character, was supposed to be like
inside supervisor.
like watching over them with the recordings and all this stuff. So like maybe it was supposed to be this way to be like, well, they had to really get into the characters. You didn't need to get into them that much. Every one of those scenes was pretty darn fat. It could have just been, Nathan said it first, spliced along the way, just sprinkled the story along the way, because otherwise, I mean, between him and Winona Ryder's character, that's kind of what I wanted to see more of, rather than just that little bit where she said something about, every time I do cocaine, I don't want to be
Yeah.
broke
Yeah.
because I always just do too much cocaine.
Her having to
Don't touch
explain
me,
it.
do too much cocaine.
Right.
Yeah, and I was just like, God bless.
That used to be a joke. With
Yeah, I
my
remember
friend
us.
group.
Yeah.
All the time.
Hmm.
Like you just like
Touch
poking
them.
at somebody. It's
I
like,
don't
don't touch me.
I'm gonna start saying that when Price tries to play toesies with me and they need to hear.
Yeah.
God.
Did
I
too
need
much
to
coke.
stretch.
I did too much coke.
I did too much coke.
All right.
Yes, that's that segment.
Let's get into the whole general score segment. How does this usually go now? Is it
We do our scores
we do
first.
our scores
we do ours
first, and then we get into all the other stuff. All right. Price, start us off.
Easy. Got my number. Got it in my head. How do I do it this way? For the camera, it is a 3.
Ooh, that's tough.
Oh, big toughie.
I don't enjoy the animation that they're going for. I don't care that they worked on it forever. If you go on to polish a turd for forever, it's still going to be a turd. And in my book, that's what this is. I don't enjoy the animation. The dialogue is trying to be something that I've seen done much better. It's the story is not told in a good way. Like Nathan said, like it's not like interwoven to the story. It's like segmented. It's like story, skits, story. And I don't really like that, especially when the skits aren't really landing for me. And I like skits, quote unquote. Like I said, the dialogue I didn't really enjoy. There's no music. Like there's not really like a soundtrack to this movie to really latch onto and really remember. It just feels like just a lot of blah to me. It would be lower, but I don't actively dislike it. Like it doesn't like hit me in a way that makes me actively dislike it. So it's a 3 for me.
What was his original score?
I can check.
Yeah, you're welcome to. I did not check.
In our retro reviews, I get to ask the question.
Yeah,
What is
right.
our original
that
score?
works for me. Yeah,
Okay.
it's all the way to the top.
All the way to the top.
All the way to the top. His original score was a 6.5.
Wow.
That's a big drop. 3
I told you
Big
the second
drop.
rewatch like really
Yeah.
made me know what I was looking for.
Well, unfortunately, wow, Jesus Christ. Remind me to go over all of them at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, my score was an 8 on this movie.
Damn.
I know.
Hmm.
I am going to drop that down to a 6. This movie, its redeemable qualities is its uniqueness. It's also got a pretty darn good cast that you're not tired of all of them by the end of it. Even Keanu Reeves, I actually still liked him towards the end. He played a very good Neo in this movie because he is exactly what Neo was. Clueless, glazed over look the entire time.
You want an everyday man blank
You
canvas
do,
character,
you
right?
do.
Like you get Keanu Reeves for those roles at that time.
Exactly. This movie, though, unfortunately, it's nothing that I would probably ever watch again. Was I happy about this rewatch? Sure. I've got my fill. I'm good to go. If there's another movie that comes out that has this animation style, Love, Death, and Robots has some of those, like not like this, but like a taste
That
of like
varies
what you can
wildly.
get,
Yeah.
a taste of the animation style that you can get. I do like that part of it, but it's definitely not enough to make me want to watch a 21 minutes.
It's an hour and 40.
Hour 40.
Yeah, so
So hour,
100
minutes.
minute.
Hour 35.
Yeah, 100
considering
minutes.
credits. Yeah.
But yeah, so 6 for me. It's not nearly as good the second time through, unfortunately.
I don't know what I scored it the first time, and I'll ask you in a second. But this time, I'm giving it a 7.5. What did I give it the first time?
8.
8. Okay, so that tracks with me. I think, yeah, this is one of the ones where I was enamored by what they were doing and the direction and all of
Just
it.
kidding. You gave it a 7.5.
7.5? Okay, so I'm consistent. Perfect. Aha! See? I'm a man of acquired taste. And I know my score judgment wrong. So, yeah, I would say this movie doesn't push... I mean, again, when you're at 7.5, the argument is, does it lean more towards 7 or does it lean more towards 8? It's right in the middle. Because I think 7, it's a little bit... It'd be a little bit worse of a movie, which makes sense. 7 is less than 7.5. But it doesn't push an 8 category for me because although it is doing a lot in being unique, it is doing a lot with putting you in this headspace and covering a distinct topic and characters who you may not find relatable if you don't have any relations with addictions or having anything in that background. I know people like this. I know plenty of people who are in this category with it. I think it's interesting to take a movie and put me roughly into their perspective in such a unique way, and I appreciate that. But for all of the goods and perks of it, it just isn't something that pushes it above and beyond. The dialogue is relevant and very grounded and real to those characters, but it wasn't super, like, as the movie part goes, it wasn't as an engaging movie more than what was on the screen. It didn't feel like the dialogue was taking me over. It didn't feel like I loved any of these characters specifically. If any one of these characters suddenly died in some dramatic way, and Keanu Reeves objectively gets like brain...
He gets taken to the farm.
Right, yeah, so he
The
gets...
farm upstate.
He gets the closest
where
thing
all
you
the
get.
dogs go.
Right, he gets the closest thing you get to a character death in this movie, and it's not like I'm like heartbroken or like really beat up about it. I'm just like, yeah, I mean,
Freck died.
Freck,
No, Frank.
No,
didn't
he's
die.
there at the farm.
Yeah.
He's
Not the
he's
farm,
In
the-
the facility.
he's in the facility, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
He,
Okay,
his
yeah.
head
Totally.
shaved. He's the one that's like
That's right.
the dead. The living should not be used to
That's
serve
right.
the purposes of the dead, or
Mhm.
all that weird stuff that they're all saying to each other.
Right.
Mhm.
So if anything, it's one of the things where I would give it a perk for being almost too good in the direction it's trying to do, in that it starts to get a little too niche in its content with that. And I think that for me is, as much as I enjoy it, and I think that I appreciate direction and all the effort that's going into it, it just doesn't take me any further than 7.5 for just my enjoyment value alone out of it. And that's the biggest like barrier for it, and the way for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan.
I mean, I think I'm gonna land at the same point, 7.5.
Mm.
I mean, it's good. It doesn't go up to the point of being an 8. Really, it would probably run like solid 7 if it weren't something that had like that added bump of it being something that has always been especially interesting to me. Probably more so just because it's been a thing that I've always thought was cool enough to share with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what gives it staying power in my mind. And yeah, I mean, I still enjoy it, but I think there's like a meta level of enjoyment to it where like the scenes and stuff remind me of things that have nothing to do with the movie as
Mhm.
well. So it's just one of those nostalgia kind of things.
So, as far as like other people were thinking, like Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, what did those scores typically tend to look like? Because I feel like my guess would be that this is a movie that probably goes over well better with critics than wider audiences.
Well, that is not true actually.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not hugely different though. So critical review gives it a 68%.
Okay.
Audience is 74.
Huh.
IMDb gives it a 7.1
Yeah.
out of 10.
You don't even need to look at IMDb.
That's interesting
No.
though.
No.
Yeah.
Mason's a huge contributor on
Right.
IMDb.
Yeah,
It's mostly
and we know
I'm
his
in there.
scoring scale.
I'm in there.
Yeah, it's excellent score.
So are you saying that a 7 on IMDb is middle of the road? Like 7 is actually a 5 on IMDb?
Actually, I would say 7 as a whole. Like across the board, like the critic scale, like I think 7 is an average score.
It is. It's very, very much
It
average.
is.
Because a lot of your people, even on IMDb, it's more like user-based. Like, they're not going to give a movie like a 2 or a 3 or whatever. Like,
Yeah, you have to be offended to go.
like you'll probably get something a 4. And then you'll have some people that give stuff an 8. So it's like, the way that it's weighted, 7, 6... The way I look at it, anything that's between like a 6.2 and like a 7.5 is probably going to be like that was a pretty okay watch.
Yeah.
You know? Which, it's new and true. It holds pretty darn true. But anyways.
That's a wrap. And then the episode just ends abruptly.
What is next?
Without further ado,
Yep.
we've got the spin.
All right, who's spinning?
I want to spin. I gotta be on.
Spin it.
Wait, so I gotta spin it this way from here, though.
Yep.
Right?
All right.
Yeah, because I don't want to.
Just,
I've got it.
just get it low and then rip.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, rip it.
Pretty good one.
That's a proper spin.
Yeah.
Like last time.
Not prices.
That was
for me,
mine.
Oh boy!
Out,
Get
that-
your Emma Watson fans out. We're gonna
that's-
be watching The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
You
Teen
wanna do
drama.
the trailer?
No idea. What that
Let's
is.
get the trailer.
I don't think it's
That's okay.
nowhere near being ready. So.
Stay tuned. We're getting a trailer. Quick
Well,
commercial break.
Oh, we are?
Quick question. Who in this group has seen this movie already? Raise
I
your
haven't seen
hand.
it yet.
Not I.
Are you guys kidding?
Not
This would be
I.
a pretty good movie for you all then.
No, I've read the book several times. That's one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that might really hurt or like
Maybe.
go either way. on
Have you
that.
not seen the movie?
No, I've not seen the movie yet.
Huh.
I've been wanting to see it since it came out, and then I just never took the time to do it.
Is this
And then I got to this.
Is this a recent movie?
No, this is like
2011 or 2012,
Oh.
something like that.
12.
Huh.
Yeah, it's been around for almost 10 years
I'm
now.
guessing you've seen it, Mason, right?
Yeah, Mason's
Yeah.
seen it.
I just watched it.
What was that? That you
months
had a
ago.
YouTube thing that said I made $1 billion in 5 minutes. Is it easy?
It's probably stalled.
How easy is it?
I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna need to pull that back up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pull it back up after the video.
Do you buy them all?
The Perks of Being. Alright.
Somebody, that Daniel Green guy who's all over the front page, somebody sent me his stuff the other day. It's like, he's fine.
Let's see this.
Well, I've been watching him for like Wheel of Time stuff.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
This is a very artsy kind of movie. I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those
kinda
RC teen dramas.
indie.
It's got Emma
sorta-
Watson. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
So,
It's got Ezra Miller, the new Quicksilver
Flash, buddy.
in Flash.
yeah. No, I don't like him.
Yeah, that guy kind of looks like a Soy Boy Beta Cup, but not our Soy Boy Beta Cup.
Isn't that Percy
Not
Jackson?
ours.
Yeah, it is Percy Jackson.
The having the speaker sitting on your desk like that, like the whole sound system thing.
Paul Rudd!
Yeah, Paul Rudd's in.
Okay, I'm already not liking this.
This is a very
I am
this
not
soapbox
liking
movie.
this so
I can-
far.
so-
this is not.
I can
feeling
already
good.
tell this is gonna be one of the ones.
He's so handsome, and he said like Charlie never stood out. Like,
Yeah.
oh my.
I feel like this is gonna be a movie that has very booky dialogue that's gonna annoy the shit out of Price.
No, the soapbox aspect of this movie is what's gonna drive him up the wall.
Yeah.
This is what that was. Anne from Arrested Development. Her.
Rashida Jones?
I think
Yeah,
I hated high school
No, that's
too
Parks
much
and Rec.
to like any movie like this.
I'll see.
Don't worry, she does it all the time. She's a free spirit.
Yeah. This fall,
Oh,
guys,
boy.
it's this fall. It's not winter yet.
Yeah.
I just like that it's Imagine Dragons. This is
That
back when they
is.
were relevant.
I really
Yeah.
like this song too, and now they're like ruining it.
I hope so.
It's the producers of Juno? Hello?
You know, I've still never seen Juno either.
Juno's.
It's
Maybe
been
the,
a really long
maybe
time
the
for
best
me.
movie of 07.
Huh.
I probably would actually give you that.
It's I Am Legend and it's
We accept the love we think we deserve. Oh my god, it's so deep. Oh my god, he's just like in the sycamore that's wrinkled in the backyard, like flipped or whatever it is.
I can't wait to hear everybody else's review on this movie. I'm also gonna hear some of my review. I don't know. Again, it's maybe one of these ones that the book is gonna just read better, and then on screen film it'll be like, ugh.
I am despising this
Hey, that
movie
was-
based on the
That
trailer.
was Nina Dobrev.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
What does that mean? I swear we're infinite.
that's the line
that
in the
doesn't
book.
mean anything.
It's in the book, everybody.
Oh my god.
I feel like the trailer for a movie like this just does not play well.
No.
Alright, now here's the deal.
I am
Oh,
deeply
God.
I'm not
disliking
even gonna
this
say
movie
it. I'm
already.
not even gonna get into it for next
I
week.
Am Infinite, and it's got some guy crying in one of the thumbnails on the recommended.
That tracks. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Anyway, that's
That's
gonna be
one
our
of the
show for
Sprouse brothers,
tonight.
thank you.
Spread. Oh, it is.
Cole Sprouse.
The bottom one, you dummy. It
Oh,
says
yeah.
I Am Infinite.
It's some guy reviewing the
The
book. I assume.
Yeah.
Anyway, so tune in next week to the Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Just don't come.
Price is looking forward to it.
Just don't.
I'm looking forward to Price's review. I'm looking forward to my review.
I do.
Anyways, if you like the content we're doing, make sure to give us that subscribe or whatever the appropriate button is on Spotify. Whatever, it's Spotify, right?
I have no idea. Yeah, it is Spotify.
Yeah. Thumbs up and all that jazz. Make sure to hit the bell if you want to subscribe. And give us comments below. What do you think of if you watched this movie? Did you find this a weird acid trip? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Was it too much? This Perks of Being a Wallflower, an obnoxious trailer. Go look it up yourself and find out. Make sure to tune in next week for it, and we will see you then. Bye, guys.
So, do you think we'll be able to turn the season into the lowest scoring Prices ever had?
Oh, I think
We're
this,
off to a great
No,
start.
I don't think this will hit the lowest score he's ever gotten, but it's gonna go low.
No, I don't
We'll
mean
start
like
in
the
the
lowest
3
he's
and working
ever
our way.
done. I mean like the whole season. Just have him riding on like
Oh.
below 4.
All the
Below
movies
4
that I have
season.
on here, I really enjoy though. Perfect Blue again is going to be a very wacky.